I do have to say welcome everyone for joining tonight. Thank you for joining this academic session. It's one of our Friartown Zoomed In programs regarding studying the social work, education, and health policy and management departments at Providence College. And certainly all three of those different departments are within our School of Professional Studies. And with that, there are lots of different avenues that our students are taking, our different programs. And we're joined tonight by Professor Carmen Roland, and she is one of our faculty members within our education department. And we will be joined by other individuals from our social work, from our health policy and management departments, and really be able to give you an overall understanding of what it means to be studying within the School of Professional Studies, but also how your different programs will really involve you in a lot of different capacities at Providence. So Carmen, thank you for joining. Would you like to first explain a little bit about your department, but then also some of the unique opportunities that students have available to them?
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Carmen Rolón, and as Diana said, I am the interim director of the secondary education program. Our program offers an opportunity for students who are interested in getting certified to teach grades 7 to 12, so high school and late middle school. We are a program, we are not a major, because our students major in the content area that they are going to teach. And those include in the natural sciences, it include physics, biology, and chemistry. In the humanities, it include English, language arts, and history. And then the mother languages of French, Spanish, and Italian. So our students take major in their subject and then take a series of courses in our program. Those courses focus on learning the theory and the research on effective instruction for teachers in the high school and late middle school field. Our students begin to take classes in our program in their sophomore year, and concurrently with the courses that they take, they also are placed in classroom in the school, in the areas, in the Providence and larger school areas, where they have an opportunity to observe, experience clinical educators, what they are learning in our PC classroom. So as they learn theory and they learn research, then they go to the classroom, they observe, they work one-on-one on students, and begin to also implement lessons in those classroom settings, giving them the opportunity not only to learn, but also to practice what they are doing. They continue to do that until the senior year. In the senior year, we place them in the fall semester with the clinical educator with whom they are going to student teach. And then in the spring, they are full-time student teaching. And what that means, they are the teacher on records, teaching in an area school, their content area. So they have enough experience doing that. In addition to that, we strongly encourage our students to study abroad. So we work very closely with them, so we make sure that they can fulfill all of their requirements, but also have that experience, which allow them to be better prepared in their subject area, as well as having the experience of being in a setting that is different from what they are comfortable with. Our students go usually to Ireland, they have gone to England, France, Spain, Italy, Australia, and South Africa. Those are the places that I'm more familiar that they have been going. So in a nutshell, that's what the program is. The other important information is that although PC is a test optional institution, we do require that the student give us their SATs or ACT score because in order to be certified in Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Department of Education requires that you demonstrate your literacy skill. And one way of doing that is by your scores in those tests. If you don't want or you didn't take them, you don't want to share that information with us, there are other ways to demonstrate those skills. So I'm going to stop there because I think you have more people
Oh
talking.
yeah, no, and I think that's such a great segue. Really understanding that involvement with different programs and different placements within the city of Providence, different sites. That's actually something that is very characteristic of our education majors, but then also too for our health policy and management department, students have a required internship over their junior or senior year at Providence. So within that, they're gaining that professional experience. There are a number of different partnerships, different companies and organizations that our Providence College department and students have this. There are a couple of companies that I know that they have a pipeline of different interns
Absolutely.
and even employers. So within that, we do see a lot of students having that opportunity to really extend a lot of their classroom learning to different site visits. And similarly too with social work, our students, they start right off the bat in freshman year, having that ability to work right within different site visits and different, depending upon how they want to focus that social work major, they have that ability to have different types of experiences, both in different counseling settings, clinical settings, things like that. And another thing too, you'll see different, almost like different tracks within some of our different departments, like social work, for instance. There is an accelerated track that students do receive prerequisites for then different masters in social work programs. So we do have an accredited bachelor's in social work program at Providence. And then sometimes students are able to have advanced standing in some of those masters in social work programs. But I think that, again, balance between having the ability to really hone in very closely to your particular major, but then also gaining that professional experience is very, very helpful, and hence the name professional studies.
Absolutely, you are right on target, Diana. Absolutely, all of the programs within the school offer plenty of opportunity not only to learn about it, but also to practice those skills. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of the session, throughout this entire hour, by all means, feel free to put any questions that you might have right within the Q&A. You'll see the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to type in your different questions. One question that did come through the chat, and certainly we can ask this later with some of our different current students who join. But can you just explain again the particular study abroad programs? I know this year was very different for students in how they were able to study abroad. Is there, when students are studying abroad, are they typically studying in what year? Is it typically junior year? And is there a semester that's preferred?
Yeah, well, in my some departments have different approaches to this experience. In secondary education, most students go in their junior years because the first 2 years there is a lot of core requirement that students need to fulfill, and I think also parents feel more comfortable when their children are juniors to let them go abroad for a whole semester. They often go either in the fall or the spring. Many go in the spring, some of them go in the fall. It depends their interest. And again, in our program, because they're studying, French or history, and they want to focus on some aspect of history, that's we allow them to decide what country they want to go to. During that experience, they fulfill department requirements, and sometimes in some of the program, in many of the program, they also fulfill core requirements. So when they come back, they have their 15 credits that are then evaluated and given to them. So they are not only studying something new, but something that helped them finish the program on time. One aspect that we can also talk a little bit about is the fact that in education, Providence College also offer a variety of master degree programs in in education, and that include urban education master degree. They include TESOL, global education. We have literacy program, and they have principal administration, school administration. So we have a variety. We have the PAC program, which is offers a master in teaching in Catholic school, and some of our students, when they finish, they apply to that program. So there are a variety of opportunity for them, not only to get certified and finish their degree, but also to continue that master degree that many states, at least in the New England area, require. Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island require that master degree eventually. So.
Right. No, absolutely. And we actually have a few of our different current students and alumni joining. So I will be adding them to the I guess screen or the panel, if you say. And another question too, just to back off of that, Carmen, thinking about the curriculum, how easy is it for students to balance both their core curriculum and then their education courses?
Yeah, we map out how they need to take that. Actually, many of our students not only do their major in the content and in education, they also have a double major or have a minor. Many of our students do that too. So if you plan, and the good thing in our program is that they have two advisors. They have an advisor in their major that they are completing, and they have a secondary education advisor. So you have a lot of support in terms of thinking about what you want to accomplish, and we are responsible for figuring out with you how you can do that in those 4 years. So yeah, absolutely, that's a good question.
Great, great. And similarly too, and that goes for a lot of different students, and wondering how that balance is with the core curriculum, with their different courses within their particular major, and then to thinking about all of the different maybe interests that the student has, and that's one of the things. They have that chance to meet with their advisor, and quite honestly, a lot of it's possible. Sometimes students who, when they're taking different classes within the core, within their major, within some of their different interests, that's how a lot of students end up with an extra minor that they just discovered because they realized, oh, if I take 1 or 2 more classes, then I will have that minor. So there is a nice seamless balance there in terms of being able to obviously accomplish all of the different things you need to within your major, but then also take advantage of a lot of different opportunities outside of that. Absolutely. And I'm just adding a few more panelists to our session as they've joined, and I'll be welcoming them in just a minute. And then one other question that we tend to get a lot from students in understanding some of the opportunities that are available within the department. Are there any specific unique clubs or organizations maybe that have faculty advisors or programming that's directed to either our students studying education or within the School of Professional Studies in general?
Yeah, there are some programming that we try to coordinate not only in the school, but the college in general. I am also an instructor in the Women and Gender Studies program, Black Studies. There are many departments. The global studies also offer a variety of programming. So yeah, whatever their interest is, there are also a lot of there is the education club that student can belong to. There are some honor society that they can be inducted into. And all of these student organizations also provide opportunities for students to work with children and youth. Campus ministry is another of the program that also offer opportunity for students who are really interested in working with children and youth to also work in the Providence and the larger Providence area. Our students not only go to school in Providence, but they also go in the area school. So that includes Providence, it includes Lincoln, Cumberland, and so they have different settings, so they have different experience of placement. So that's also important to keep in mind. Another element is to keep in mind that I think is an advantage in the college is that the advisors are professors. So you are talking to your professors who are advising you in that area, so both in content and also in education. So.
Great. And well, thank you so much, Carmen. I really appreciate having you here, and you're more than welcome to stay on if you'd like. We are joined by a number of our different current students and alumni. So they are able to actually, I believe they'll be able to turn over to their video to talk on the panel. I think I did that correctly when I let them in. So thank you all for joining, and we can go around and introduce one another if you'd like, you can type in your class year and your major right within your name, your Zoom name. Awesome. And as we're getting to that, we have a mixture of health policy and management, as well as elementary and secondary education majors, and also some social work majors. So we certainly, like I mentioned before, questions that come about, feel free to add those to the Q&A, and we will get to those throughout the session. But welcome, everybody. And since we heard a lot about our education major, I can turn it over to our two HPM majors. Cassidy, you're a current senior, and Mary, a former alum. By all means, can you explain a little bit about some of your experiences within the health policy and management major, particularly to the type of work that you've been able to do professionally and gain that professional experience within different internships, within some of the special topic courses that you may have had?
Go ahead, Cassidy.
Oh, Cassidy, you're on mute. There you go.
I think I double clicked it. So within the health policy and management major, you get such a wide array of classes, which is why I've loved it so much. So you start with 101, which is just an introduction to the American healthcare system. And then from there, there's a core, we have our own little core curriculum, but then you have your own 3 electives that you get to choose too. So within the core, you take financial management of health institutions, which kind of teaches you how to run a nonprofit financially. But then you also take policy analysis, which is more developing health policy. And and also epidemiology if you want to go the public health route. And then within the electives, there are so many to choose from and just so many great professors that we have access to. So since I want to go into health policy, I chose like more policy related electives, but we don't have like a capstone. Instead, we have 2 courses that you take as a senior, field experience and senior seminar. And so in field experience is where you really get like that professional development. Especially I took mine first semester senior year. So in my first semester, I was working, I worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Rhode Island, and I had an internship that I worked 16 hours a week. And so I was really like, I had my own tasks and they were treating me like a full employee. So before you even graduate, you have that chance to like get out and work in the world, but it's also a requirement of your major. So they make sure that you have that internship. And then once a week you have a seminar that goes with that. And like you get to sit and kind of talk about like what you did that week in your internship and kind of what skills you're learning out in the field versus, and like kind of talk about how it ties into what we've learned over the past 4 years.
Great. And I am Mary Dolan. I'm a graduate from 08. And so I'm also an HPM major, and I have a minor in accounting and business studies as well. I'm currently the chief technology officer for a health system in Florida. So Florida is where I actually grew up, but after I went to Providence College and graduated, I lived in the Boston area since I've graduated. I just recently moved back home to Florida. And it's for this exciting opportunity. Since I graduated, I've only ever worked in healthcare. So as an HPM grad, I hope that I do our school proud. Part of the reason why I wanted to be an HPM major was because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of the people that we served as a healthcare community. So I feel pretty strongly about the work that we do, even though you might say to yourself, but you just said you're a chief technology officer, and that's right, because I feel pretty awesome that technology individuals play a role in that patient experience, that family experience, in their healthcare journey. And so I would say probably the best thing for me when I was at PC was obviously not only meeting your great individuals that are your peers, but was doing part of that as part of the HPM program, that capstone project. I worked for Care New England Health System. That was where my capstone was. And they originally put me in the finance department. And what that taught me is I absolutely hated finance, and I did not want to do that in my career. And so that was a great thing, because that's what capstones are for. You know, that's what it helps you teach you. And so as part of that program too, when I remember the person I was working for at Care New England, they brought me into their office and they said, "So how's it going?" And I said, "I really hate this," full transparency. And they said, "Well, let's find something more interesting for you." And so they put me in strategic planning. And I liked that a little bit more. And so they taught me a little bit more. And so the great thing about Providence College is that it opens a bunch of doors for you, and they push you to kind of try new things and get out there and find your passion and find what you're good at. And so I feel pretty strongly that it pushed me in the right direction, and I do that on a daily basis. And so it's awesome, and I attribute it all to PC.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and similarly too, Anissa and Vanessa, would you be able to explain some of your different placements that you've had with your social work program, and where you are now in terms of what you're doing with that social work program?
Yeah, hi, my name is Vanessa. I'm a junior here. Right now, I'm in my first junior placement, so I work at Youngwoods Elementary. It's pretty interesting. It's not something that I really expected to do specifically because of COVID, but I work with students, I sit down, we do lunch bunches. I work specifically with the school social worker right now. And pretty much what junior placement is all about is just the shadowing aspect of field placement. We don't do too much considering the circumstances this year, but definitely it's just a lot of shadowing, and that's pretty much a lot of what I do.
That's great.
I mean, I can absolutely echo that, Vanessa. I did a lot of, shadowing and little things my junior year placement. So in social work, usually you have your first placement in your junior year, usually in the spring, for some students who go abroad, which obviously is not happening currently. Some would do it in the fall. So my very first placement was similarly in a school. I was in the Cranston Early Childhood Center, shadowing the school social worker and working in their integrated preschool classrooms. And so I did some shadowing and also led some assessments with the IEP team there, which was an eye-opening experience. And similar to Mary, I learned I hated school social work. And that was probably not where I was going to find my best fit. So my senior year, I actually was able to intern at Family Court with CASA, and that stands for the Court Appointed Special Advocates Office. And they sort of oversee care for kids who are in foster care and whose parents and families are involved with family court. So I had amazing opportunities to connect with parents who, lost custody of their children and the children who were in foster care, and learn their stories and be able to advocate for kids' best needs and listen to a variety of different providers. And that was just such a wonderful opportunity, because PC social work department has so many wonderful connections in the community that I've maintained through my time as an adult and going into the social work field post-grad and then through my graduate program. So that has led me to where I am now, and I work currently at Family Service of Rhode Island here in Providence as a clinician or a therapist in a foster care program. So I really did find my footing through PC and my connections there, working in foster care and working with kids and families who are involved with the child welfare system. Today's been a great day, so I feel very passionate talking about it. But through those practicum experiences, and also my senior year, we have, I can't remember if it's called a capstone or not, but we did a year-long course where we learned all about theories and real things you use in practice in the social work space and you need to go to grad school with. So it was really great to have an intensive course at the end of PC to really learn the things that carried me through the rest of my career, or I'm still very young, but through the career I currently have. So that's just a little tidbit from me.
Awesome, and thank you. Thanks, Anissa. Some of you have mentioned a little bit about some of the different connections you made, and one of the questions that came through was, can you explain some of the faculty connections you've made on campus, or you made on campus, and how that has really impacted your growth in terms of whether you came to campus knowing exactly what you wanted to study, or how you've kind of navigated and developed some of those interests. Kat, we haven't heard from you. I didn't see who had their screen unmuted.
I'll just go then.
Yeah, go for it.
I came to PC as a freshman as a sociology major, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, but I met Rosemary Maha, and I don't know if you know who that is, but she teaches Social Work 101, and just sitting through that class, just listening to her speak about her work and how it's really impacted her life, it just made me have this feeling, I think social work might be for me. And considering my mother is a social worker herself, I grew up knowing a lot about the system, and just seeing her work, I just wanted to do it myself too. And Rosemary Maha definitely pushed me to become a major, and that's exactly, I'm happy she did that. And the faculty connections in the department it's just wonderful. They know exactly what they're talking about. They'll definitely push you. They'll encourage you, and anyone who joins the department definitely won't regret it because it's wonderful.
Awesome.
I can also speak to that a little bit. My name is Kat Mazuka. Hi. I am a 2017 grad, and then I just graduated from grad school at PC in 2020. And I currently teach first grade, elementary, and special education. I saw a question in the Q&A about how you know what you want to major in if elementary education is something that's for you. And I think that going along with what you were saying, Diana, the connections that you make with your professors really helped me decide what I wanted to do. I actually started as health policy and management. I moved to social work, and then I moved to education. So this is a perfect panel for me because I've got to experience all of them, love them all. Definitely was able to find the right fit for me because of the professors. The professors that work specifically in the education department really care. They have office hours every single day. You can just pop in. I still call them if I'm having issues with behavior management. In my class, I have 32 first graders, so they're running around like crazy people. And sometimes I don't exactly know the correct instructional approach. So I still talk to like Dr. Skowinski, Dr. Keating. They're all professors that are at PC. Those connections you don't really get at a lot of other schools. And I feel like they know your name. They want to help you. They want to support you. But beyond just making connections with the professors that are in your major, you also make connections with other people, like all my friends in admissions, but also the priests on campus. They really want to help you spiritually, academically, and they're just very supportive as well. So you get to know different people, even people who work in the dining hall and other areas of campus. So the campus is very close-knit and supportive.
Absolutely. And we actually have, oh, go ahead, Gabby. Did you take?
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off that one. Dr. Skowinski's my advisor, and she was the name that came to my head too. She's great. I am a senior elementary and special ed major. I'm also in first grade right now for my student teaching. I've been in it all year. We do a 2-part student teaching. So my first semester I was in special ed in first grade, and then this semester I'm in my general ed in first grade. I don't have 32, I have 23, but it still feels like a lot. So I don't even know how you're dealing with 32. But yeah, like Kat said, the faculty are always there to help you. You can email them at any time and they'll get back to you. Some of them, like my supervisors, I've even had their, personal phone numbers, and they'll, shoot me a text, or I'll ask them a question or something like that. And with that question about what made us know what we wanted to do, I'm one of those cases where I've known I wanted to be a teacher since I was in second grade myself. So I knew coming into PC, this is what I wanted to do. And it's actually the reason I chose this school was because of the great education program and all of its opportunities. You get in the classroom right in freshman year, you do observations freshman year, but by sophomore year, you're teaching 1 lesson a week in a classroom. And that was really great for me because it got my foot in the door and let me feel the excitement of doing a lesson plan and getting in there and teaching it, but it also wasn't throwing it all at you at once. Where now I'm full-time teaching. I'm there 7:45 to 3:45 at least every day. And it's great. I love it so much. But with me, it definitely was, I came here knowing that I wanted to do this, and with all the opportunities, especially with, I know sometimes there's the question of study abroad, and I got to study abroad in Florence and teach there. And that was amazing. And that was another reason I chose this school, because the opportunity was just, one I couldn't pass up. But yeah, definitely the faculty here, it's such a small major that, all the faculty get to know you even from your freshman year. You have the same professors basically throughout. I've had Dr. Skowinski 3 different times. And she's my advisor. So that's good too. So like the connections you make with that, you overlap a lot over the years. And so it makes those relationships even stronger. And then you feel even more comfortable asking questions, asking for help, getting advice, because teaching can be hard and you're not going to know the answers all the time. And that's what your professors are for, because they're here to help you with that. So it's really a great program.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps too, again, being able to, in really all of these different majors, being able to gain some experience within the field, and then having those very receptive faculty who are willing to give feedback as well. So there was actually another question. This kind of relates to different study abroad opportunities in the different departments. I know some of you have studied abroad or had the chance to study abroad. And I'd love to turn it over to you to share a little bit about that experience and how you worked with our Center for Global Education to really solidify that I keep saying elementary special education, that study abroad program.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak again. I'll talk about Florence forever. I won't, I promise. But yeah, so I was fortunate enough to go abroad in fall of 2019. So it was before everyone got sent home, which I was very grateful for. But yeah, so I went over at the very end of August, and by the middle of September, I was in a 4th grade classroom in the Florentine primary school. I was teaching English, so we were in there about 4 hours a day, twice a week. So you got to be in there for 4 hours and teach basically 2 hours and watch 2 hours. And then you were with a partner where you watched their 4 hours the next day and got to observe, because you need a certain number of teaching and observation hours in your sophomore and junior practicums. And so I was in a 4th grade classroom. I was teaching their English lessons. And so even though they were 4th grade, they were learning at basically like a 1st grade English level. So it was like I was teaching 1st grade. And they were great. I'm Italian myself, so I know a little bit. I'm by no means fluent, but while I was over there, I got pretty close for those 4 months, which was pretty cool. But those kids taught me as much as I taught them, if not more. Not just about classroom management, because they do things a lot different over there with Italy. There's a lot more loud yelling to get attention, not in a bad way, but that's just like the atmosphere. So you got to get used to that versus our quiet classrooms sometimes here. But very fun, loving, engaging, and the kids really wanted to teach me Italian. So I would try some things, they would correct me, and then I would give them English work and I would have to help them. So it was like a two-way street going on there. But yeah, I did that up until we left in December, and I didn't want to leave the kids. They were so cute. They were the highlight of my week. But it was really fun being able to teach them something that I might not be able to teach in the American classroom in the same way. I mean, we teach English here, but it's more English language arts rather than the actual language. So that was really cool getting to teach those kids about American holidays and American vocabulary words and tying in lots and lots of bingo. So yeah, and along with the actual studying abroad, the teaching didn't affect how I got to travel to other countries. I still got to go to 10 different countries, 20 different cities while getting to teach. So that was really cool. The whole experience was awesome. So if anybody ever has questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or I can give my email or something. I'm always ready to talk about it.
Sure. And that's one of the things too with our students. In normal years, it's anywhere from 50 to 60% of our junior class that studies abroad in some capacity. So within that, they've really, there are particular programs that directly cater to different academic majors and minors. So students aren't at a disadvantage. They're not missing different classes that are currently taking place. They're still able to make sure that those are all incorporated within their study abroad experience, but then also their overall courses for their major or minor. And then Carmen, actually, this is a good question for you. This actually pertains to the master's degree for secondary education, for those who have done a master's degree in education at Providence. What is the typical time frame for that program?
It depends on the particular program that you apply to. I know that the literacy program, I think you can complete it in year and change because you can begin actually taking classes as a senior. Maybe Catherine, if you did that, you can talk better about it. They can begin taking classes in the literacy program while they are student teaching and finishing the degree. So then they, in addition to that, they get summer classes and then 1 year and you're done and you have the master. If you go to the PAC program, for example, and that is the program about Catholic teaching, it's a 2-year commitment on the program. So it depends the field that you are interested in pursuing. Catherine, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I did the literacy program at PC. I did start my senior year. Thought I was going to get it done in a year, and then I got a job in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, and I tried to do both at the same time. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to try and do it in a year. We're going to slow it down. So it actually took me 3 years to complete. But I will say what was so great about the graduate program is that they really do a good job at helping you to work at your own pace. And you don't feel bad if you have to work at your own pace. You can do 1 class a semester, 2 classes a semester, but it was nice to have the option. So a lot of different people were on different tracks, doing it for an X amount of years. Took me a little bit longer, but it was manageable with working all day and then going to class at night. So totally can make it your own.
Yeah. And another big question that always comes about is, and I mean, each of you can speak to this in different capacities. I think for our current students, definitely explaining your transition to Providence. What were some of the things that were shocking to you, or that you really then felt very prepared to take on once you got the lay of the land that freshman year? So could you speak to that transition? And then after that, for our different alums on the panel, could you speak to that transition after Providence? And what were some of the supports that you drew on? And we kind of touched upon this a little earlier, but this is always a big question among students.
I can start, I guess. My biggest thing, my first week freshman year, I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much time on my hands. Like, I was always someone in high school that I was at school all day. I had sports after school, then did homework all night. And I got here, and first semester freshman year, you take 4 classes. And so I only had like 2, maybe 3 classes a day. And I was like, what do I do with all this time? But I guess, like, to your question about finding something shocking, it was shocking in a good way, though. It was that everyone like puts their schoolwork first, which I was also kind of like, I was worried that everyone was going to want to just like hang out or like go do things or like play on Slave and Lawn all day. But we all kind of were on the same page that like, okay, we'll get our homework done and then we'll go to like all these different events that are available literally every day. But I think my biggest piece of advice is to like join clubs and like kind of fill that schedule so that throughout the day you don't have, I mean, for me, it was nice like to know that I had to get my homework done between these hours because I have a meeting at 7 and I need to get dinner and I want to go to the gym. So me and my roommates like mapped out a schedule. We had a little whiteboard and we were like, okay, we're going to do this and we'll do this, just to kind of fill those hours that like you're used to being like at high school all day and then having sports practice right after or clubs right after. But yeah, that's my advice.
I'll go. I definitely agree with Cassidy. Joining a lot of clubs is definitely what helped me out, especially coming from a predominantly person of color environment, high school, neighborhood, all of that. Coming to PC was just a huge culture shock for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't see anyone that looks like me. What do I do? But I'll start talking about the clubs that I went into. Horizons. It's run by POC for POC to make us feel comfortable in this environment that's so new to us. There's also Women Empowered, a club filled with women of color for women of color. And we just kind of talk about our experiences here. And it's just people that are there for you, you know, so we don't feel alone. That's definitely what made me feel comfortable. And I still continue to go to those club meetings all the time. And yeah, that's what really keeps me going. Just knowing that I have people by my side at all times that look just like me and know what I'm going through.
Kind of along the note of what Cassidy said, my brother's currently a freshman in college, and my first thing for him was join as many clubs as you can. But on the other side of that, it doesn't necessarily mean that once you pick that club, you have to stay in it. And I think that's what I misunderstood my freshman year. You know, I wanted to try out all these different things, but then I got it into my head that, oh, I'm going to have to do all these all the time. And am I going to want to? And I ended up not picking any of them. And I found later that that was actually to my detriment because there were all these things that I could have explored and I could have done. And I didn't get to it in time. And sometimes there's some issues of, you know, once you become a junior, you don't actually have the time to try to fit a new thing in your schedule. Or some clubs you can only join up until your sophomore year, like very few, but you know, that kind of idea. So then I found kind of like I was feeling like I missed out on something. I mean, I still have done many things and I found some other great things to do. So I'm not upset in the least, but there are some things sometimes where I go, oh, I could have done that because I have tried to sign up and then I, talked myself out of it. So that was the first piece of advice I gave my brother was, even if you're a little bit hesitant on it, sign up for everything. And then you can decide from there after the first meeting of them, oh, I really want to do this, but I don't want to do that. Because I think that'll work much better in the long run. So that would be my advice and kind of like my weird shock at first.
Yeah, I'll jump off that because I think I did the opposite. I didn't join a lot freshman year, and that was to my detriment in that regard because I felt I had all this unscheduled time that I never had before, and it was a huge shock to navigate these systems where you're trying to make friends and fit in and kind of feel included in the campus community. So I really kind of didn't do anything because I was so overwhelmed with what was offered to me and trying to figure out where I fit in this whole thing, while simultaneously trying to figure out what I wanted to study and major in and do as a career. And I think there's a lot of pressure when you come into that freshman year to really have it all figured out. And I'm still figuring it out. So so I think it's a lot of those things, but by giving myself that that time and space, I think, to explore different clubs and kind of figure out where I wanted to be, I was able to kind of observe. I'm an observer fully, observe like the campus community and different clubs, and was able to join clubs that really fit who I am. And I was in Active Minds, and I participated in some campus ministry stuff and was able to kind of fit those into a schedule that felt good to me instead of rushing into doing a million things. But it felt weird at first because I was also overscheduled in high school. I was yearbook editor, track runner. I like ran the show in so many different avenues in high school. And all of a sudden I was a small fish in a really big pond where everyone else had similar stories to mine. And I think that was the biggest shock, to really meet people who were as academically driven and as like community oriented and enjoyed clubs and doing these things to further their own campus community.
Awesome. And for that transition after Providence, I know Kat and Mary, you both mentioned as well some of the different almost networking and network you felt like you had after Providence. But what has been who are some of the biggest mentors that you've had, and how connected do you stay with PC in general? I know you're on this panel, but talk about those connections coming back to campus as well.
Yeah, so if you want, I'll go first. So I would say, so I've been out the longest out of everybody, and I, by far, it's okay, I'm still cool. But I definitely, I'm still connected with my professors even that I had that are still there. I, on LinkedIn, which is the professional kind of social networking site, if you will, my fellow PC HPM grads who are doing crazy, amazing stuff, who maybe, I wasn't the closest friends with them when I was at PC, but we're connected and we're friars. And like, when I see that they're winning all sorts of awards for like, coolest person 40 under 40, it's pretty impressive. And we get to celebrate that together, and we all send each other private messages, and it's a pretty neat thing. I probably haven't seen some of those people since I even graduated, and yet I have this really deep connection with them, and we talk sometimes on the phone and all that good stuff. So it's a pretty neat thing to kind of say that you're a friar, and you kind of know that you have those people to fall back on, and that you meet during your college career. A big thing for me as I transitioned into the real world is, PC helps you learn how to think critically and how to keep the big picture in mind. So, I think, and again, I attribute a lot of my success to PC and the way that they taught me to kind of think and think differently. And it's okay to, call things out that maybe don't make sense, or question things, and make sure that you understand it and all that good stuff. And that's a hard thing to find in the world, and people to really, think about things just differently and holistically, and just, you know, how it all fits together. And so again, I think that while we were an HPM grad, I think part of, you know, Western Civ was a big part of just how do you think through things and do things differently, and how does it all connect? And so that has, again, I think part of the transition into the real world, part of my successes were because of PC and, you know, how it teaches in general.
Yeah, I think a well-rounded liberal arts education really set us up for success post PC. PC is great because there's so much to do, and you're active, and you're taking all these classes, and you're meeting new people. And then when you graduate, you have to transition into the real world, and that's scary. PC prepares you so well for that. And I think that's because of the connections that you make, not only with your peers, but with your professors and your mentors. I have girls that I graduated with in the PC education program that we still talk. We still have group messages. We send each other pictures of tests and funny things that the kids do, and we keep that going. All the professors, a lot of them I still talk to. Like I mentioned, the Dominican brothers, still speak to a lot of them. And then also those liberal arts classes that you took, women's studies, or a theology course, or a social work course, or anything like that, you have professors from that you reach out to still. So those connections, that really great background, you're not just focused on your major, you're learning about other things as well. So I think that's what sets PC apart and helps with that transition.
Great. Well, and this is kind of a very much along the same lines as a discussion that we had earlier with another group, just the fact that our students really have that chance to learn how to formulate different opinions, ask those questions, but also know that they're in a supportive environment where they can share their voices, and also to have that chance to learn from other voices that they weren't expecting or haven't experienced before. So I thank you all for joining tonight. It was a great panel and great to see each and every one of you. And for all of our students joining in tonight, thank you for joining this session. Any further questions that you might have for any of us or admission office, happy to pass those along. Any questions to some of our different panelists. Oh, and there was a question just asking if different emails could be put in the chat. So more than welcome to share your emails through that chat. And any students who have an interest in being in touch further with faculty members or admission office, happy to connect with you after as well. So, great, thank you all. And have a good evening.
Nice to see everyone. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.